by Dominican as we're finally on the air. We've been broadcasting without broadcasting, folks, as we weren't able to get into the press box here at Pan American until just now. I'm Jude Young along with Emmanuel Peppa. Scoreless so far between Dominican and Mount Carmel in the opening half. The third-rated in Division I Mount Carmel squad that's unbeaten against Dominican, rated 10th right now and playing shorthanded the rest of the season. We'll talk about that in a moment. So far, Dominican holding their own, but Mount Carmel with their first foray into the final third here, looking for an opportunity perhaps for a cross, and there is one, but played out well by the center of the Dominican defense, but not cleared too far, so still a chance for Mount Carmel to keep coming, but it was Aguilera who was dispossessed, and the ball's played out again. Mount Carmel still with possession, moving from right to left in their white tops and orange shorts. Dominican usually wearing that black and white setup. This time the designated road team, as that's the first shot, perhaps if you want to call it a shot, towards goal. I don't think it would officially go down as one, but Dominican now with possession, but not for long. What we expected to see, Mount Carmel starting to take command of the ball, and this time an opportunity perhaps for a shot. We'll see playing it back towards the middle. Not a one-timer, but eventually played to the right of the post out on what could have been a real shot opportunity that wasn't taken advantage of there.
And we saw the first little bit of quality and control in space on the attacking end of the pitch from Mount Carmel, as Dominican really looking to pack it in and trying to frustrate Mount Carmel and not let them have opportunities, especially with Dominican dealing with a lack of scoring due to injury. Mount
Carmel will vacillate today, according to head coach Pavlos Petru, between a 4-3-3 and a variation of the 4-4-2, more attack-minded, against a 4-5-1 setup from Dominican, as again that one going towards goal and handled nicely by Maddie Watkins, the junior, gaining the start. It's a timeshare in goal for Dominican, as they also have Katie Sadora, who we expect to see start the second half. They alternate halves all season long, at least into the playoffs, according to head coach Gail Silva.
And her first kind of real test of the game, she came out on that ball with confidence and was able to smother it cleanly.
As we continue forward now, Mount Carmel is, I think, content to give Dominican a little bit of an opportunity at possession, just create some spacing, because last time out in a draw against St. Thomas More, Mount Carmel had 80% of the possession, according to Petru, and not really having a great opportunity to attack in the final third, which is what happens when you play a team that plays compact. As we have a loss of audio here. My headset, we're back on. It's difficult to break a team down when they want to pack it in defensively, and they know you have more skilled players to deal with. Again, Mount Carmel facing a team in Dominican this afternoon that right now, no seniors on the pitch. Only the senior keeper, Sadora, would be one expected to play today, and a big reason why is the loss of Alex Sakaran. We'll hear what Coach Silvas has to say about the adjustment period that needed to be made after this free kick from right at midfield. Chance to play one into the box in the air and perhaps I should say create some havoc, but instead played short and back for continued possession here, and Mount Carmel yet to really get a quality shot at goal so far.
And this is where Dominican hopes to kind of keep Mount Carmel in that final third of the pitch, try to keep them guessing. But Mount Carmel countering with, obviously, the lion's share of possession for the moment and trying to hope for that one lapse, maybe get that one window of open opportunity.
Dominican not desperately clearing either. They've tried to gain possession and create some opportunities for counter, but that ball played out on the far side. So a throw-in, perhaps, depending on the ability to get it there, coming for the Cubs, and Hannah Deming will step up and try to see if she can create an opportunity with a throw-in. Instead, she goes short, and a bouncing ball, and we know this AstroTurf can play havoc in that particular area versus natural grass, but these girls are used to it. But now an opportunity for Dominican on some sloppy passing, playing forward, but a couple of Cubs back ahead of the pack to play it back to the keeper, who boots it right back forward to see if Mount Carmel can counter the counter, if you will. Looked like a high boot, the call there against Dominican. So, no, actually offsides is the call against the Cubs, so Dominican will have a free kick near midfield.
And you mentioned about the turf and how it could play tricks on you, not only with the bounce, but sometimes with the spin of the ball as well, and we saw that on display on that last bit of possession.
Coach Silvas talked about losing senior striker, her best player, Alex Sequeira. Without Sequeira, it is a painful situation for a Dominican team that hoped to be more of a contender for a state title. Goals are harder to come by, and here's what the coach had to say before the match about that. We'll try to cue that up for you as we had to scramble here in order to get things going, as that one is played near the goal and looks like it will go out for a free kick for Dominican. Let's see one more time if we can hear from the coach. See if Adam can work on that, as our volume's pretty high, but we can't now hear the recording that we were able to scramble and do that too before the match. As still waiting.
This year, with the loss of Alex, we've had to adjust our personnel shape a little bit, and right now we're still trying to iron everything out for our best chance of having success against other teams.
And Coach Silvas, a veteran of this business and longtime head coach of Dominican, knows he has an opportunity to mold a young team, but matchups like this are difficult even if you have an eye towards the future. Is Dominican able to play that one out with Haley Matthew on the near side?
And look at the players that we've been talking about with Dominican, whether it's been Babin on the left side trying to get involved in the attack early on, and Matthew, both of them sophomores, more to that youth movement now that Dominican has and the amount of youth that they have on their roster that's currently on the pitch.
Mount Carmel playing it towards the box here and into a muddle of three different Dominican defenders, but played out for looking for space now is number 15, Joe Galloway, but she's forced all the way outside near the far sideline. So good work again defensively for Dominican, and now a pass deflected, they say last touched, does the man with the flag on the far side by Dominican. So a quick throw in, and here come the Cubs once more.
And very nice by Madigan Spires there, individual defending, flushing, as you said, Galloway all the way out to the sideline.
First NBC Prep Showcase, happy to bring you girls high school soccer locally, two powerful programs, always contenders in Division I, and I'm sure we'll have playoff action for you later in the season. Boy, that was a great right-footed shot, handled right at the keeper Watkins, but from distance, a bit of a challenge, first one she's seen today.
And it had a little bit of height on it. She had to reach her hands up, not too high, but still a nice clean catch from Watkins.
Always that first one that can be most challenging. A cool, crisp day, but not terribly cold. The gloves help, as always, for the keeper in net, as Dominican now with it in the final third, looking for a throw and looking for something towards the middle of the pitch on this end. We haven't seen them have much of a chance there yet, as the ball played towards the corner and a chance for a cross into the box, but they're going to say, I believe, offsides for Dominican there, as for a moment it looked like Marcel Kepper, a junior, had a chance to create something on the wing.
And that's where they've really tried to attack, on the wings, on the flanks, on both sides right now, trying to get some width in their attack, looking for those crosses when they do have possession.
Early on, we saw some attacking from Dominican down the left side with that absence of Sydney Blue, who's an attacking right back that Coach Petru will say creates a void in the attack for the Cubs. And so far, though, the matchup, as far as attack goes, has been in favor of Mount Carmel, who and now with control here on their own end and looking to move forward. 0-0 if you're just joining us from Pan American. We don't have a clock. Nobody can figure out how to work the clock. The trials and tribulations of high school soccer. But as we continue to move forward, it's just us here in the press box, and we're nice and warm and toasty, in case you were wondering. Pretty cold out there for the fans who have showed up, and all, for the most part, bunched on this side of the field, opposite of the two teams, as now Mount Carmel with some space and pushing forward, but that through ball way overweighted, and it'll go across the back line for a goal kick.
A cool, crisp night, but we had the sun out. Of course, it's starting to set now, and actually made it a little bit warmer out here tonight, which was pleasant considering the past couple of days where we've been dealing with some seasonable cold temperatures finally after having a pretty unseasonable December.
That's very true, and I think it was referred to as soccer weather at one point by both coaches when we spoke to them briefly before today's match. Mount Carmel, by the way, 10-0-6 on the year. We told you that they're the only team that has yet to lose in Division I. There's only two teams in the state that are undefeated in girls soccer at this point, but Mount Carmel ranked behind defending state champion St. Scholastica in the power ratings, as well as Bird, who have been described by Coach Silvas of Dominican as the fastest team in the state. So those two considered the favorites right now. But Mount Carmel went to the final last year, and you can tell by their record they're a tough out in any given match. But this time Dominican with possession once more and holding their own, and that's played down the left side. And Babin will look to run it down, but it's played out, and it may be a dangerous challenge there, and the foul is called as Babin got to it first, and the Dominican defender may have injured herself. Good effort there as she hobbles up, and we'll try to make out her number here from distance. But that's a great chance coming up on the free kick for the Cubs.
That's the first time that we saw Babin with her speed on display, as she's really taken the ball in possession early on the first couple of times that the Dominican had it. But that's the first time that they really were able to play it out into some space and let her go and get it, and we saw her speed on display. Deflected
for a goal kick after the throw-in, however. Again, Dominican not finding anything in front of net so far, and that's not a surprise. They may get limited opportunities perhaps on counters, considering they just don't have that number 10 who's really a finisher that they can rely on right now. Still trying to find the right combinations, but moving forward once more, but weakly played on a couple of hops right to the keeper again. Dominican may be forcing things a little bit once they have an opportunity, that panic, that youth coming into play.
And also they're not pushing a lot of numbers forward. We obviously talked to Coach Silvas before, and he mentioned about running a 4-5-1. So really focused a lot more on defending from the midfield and back, and not pushing too many numbers forward.
And those four in the back really haven't come much further past midfield so far from what we've seen for Dominican. Here comes Mount Carmel again, trying to find a seam with these balls in the middle third of the field. But this one played back, and an opportunity to test the keeper's ability to handle it with her feet and play it out of bounds quickly. Smart play there. You don't want to take any chances when you're facing Dominican, as opposed to looking for something maybe going down the field for a counter in that situation. I think if Mount Carmel's playing St. Scholastica or somebody that they feel like is much more of an attacking threat, they're going to try to see any opportunity when the space opens up a little bit to try something.
And now we're starting to see a little bit of an adjustment by Dominican as the match progresses, to where now they're starting to play some balls over the top and trying to take advantage of maybe getting a speed mismatch on the flank and trying to get an attack in that fashion.
Yeah, a chance to maybe flick one on forward, and a player to keep an eye on who's got some ability with some height and is a player to watch for the future. Olivia Singleton, who played as an 8th grader last year and was impressive as an injury here momentarily, is being dealt with for Dominican. Trying to figure out who that is who's coming off here. Not sure.
Trying to get a number. I believe we've got number 3, Lizzie Alguero, but trying to confirm. She is walking off with the one of the training staff.
The trainer with his hand over the jersey helping her off. I believe you're right, but didn't look to be too serious for a freshman. Another youngster out there for Dominican.
Right.
As they are dispossessed quickly after the throw-in, and it's played up and out of play right at midfield, still in possession of Dominican. So you have to be impressed so far. Dominicans really held their own. It's been an even game, and that's not a surprise. What did Coach Petru tell us? He said, what? Doesn't matter. Records, talent, throw them out. These girls know each other so well, and they're so well coached, both squads, that no surprise that Dominican hanging in there so far. Singleton with a touch momentarily, but now Mount Carmel with possession. And let's see if they can create some space. You give Dominican credit defensively up top here. They're really challenging early on and not giving too much space on the ball to the Cubs, and that one's played out of bounds far sideline.
Not letting them get into a comfort zone. And the longer this stays goalless, you've got to figure the more frustrated that Mount Carmel, or you're hoping, or you're banking on the fact that it'll frustrate them some more, and maybe that'll lead to a misplay that you can attack on the counter on the other end.
We've only seen one quality shot so far, that by Mount Carmel, but right at the keeper. So things have been right where Coach Silvas and Dominican want them to be in this matchup. I believe Coach Petru said that he's coached 9 different Dominican players in club soccer. So, I mean, the familiarity between these two squads is ridiculous, to be fair. And I think familiarity in this case doesn't breed contempt, but it's just that knowledge of one another. There are no tricks in the bag.
Exactly. And what did Coach Petru say to us before the match? I wish them well individually, just not on the scoreboard.
Classy and accurate. That one played towards the keeper in an easy situation once more for Watkins, and she'll look to hoof it down the field. and see if anything can develop. And Dominican with control here momentarily. A touch for Kepper playing forward, but again overweighted. And we haven't seen great touch from either of these two squads so far. That incisive pass lacking on both sides.
And now we've seen Dominican going, as we mentioned, to some of those longer passes. And you got to figure if you try it long enough, maybe one of them can connect if you spring somebody loose. And that's what they're kind of hoping for right now. But as you mentioned, not a lot of good touch so far on either side.
Coach Petru talked about some of the teams he thought could win state. We were able to record those comments, and kind of in line with what Coach Silva said. I think there's a consensus of maybe 5 or 6 squads that might be able to win it all. As a chance for Dominican here down the right side. Plenty of space to work with it is Richardson, who is not able to do much once she reaches, and it's an easy one for the keeper to pick up.
A little bit of a heavy touch, but a little bit better that time from Kepper, as Richardson was able to chase it down. Didn't have a lot of real estate, though, once she got to the ball.
There's no question that Dominican in this first half has had more opportunities down both touch lines moving forward than Mount Carmel has. So that's a real plus, and you think it's going right into the hands of what those girls would like to see out there, as that one will be awarded to Dominican, maybe for a handball off the shoulder. That is the case. And Mount Carmel yet to find their stride, and that's a continuation of their last match against St. Thomas More, where in that one they had even more possession than they've had so far here, but not very sharp when they've had their chances moving forward. And Dominican playing confidently, but nobody's there for that final ball at the back end once more, but played out. Well, she can keep it in, she cannot. Ball crossing the line, and it'll be Dominican's ball on that end once more.
And we've seen, even though Dominican has given up the ball on that end of the pitch, still keeping the numbers that they do have forward with pressure on the keeper and on the defense, hoping to force them into a mistake where they can kind of reset and reload from an easier position.
And just 6 days ago for Mount Carmel, a scoreless draw against St. Scholastica. So they've been tough defensively, and it will be really difficult for Dominican to find that opportunity for a great scoring chance in front of net. Mount Carmel, though, not finding any so far themselves. Trying to keep possession has been difficult the last 10 minutes or so on this end, but they have it now, and trying to find that spacing. Again, Dominican in all the right places defensively in that 4-5-1, usually 9 players behind the ball, which when you're thinking defend and counter is exactly what you're looking for. And Dominican able to dispossess and play it forward, and a chance maybe for Taylor Stansberry to run it down. She's cut off, and they'll play it back to the keeper, will the Cubs once more.
And it looks to be early on a matchup of more of the speed on the flanks for Dominican that we talked about against some stronger backs on Mount Carmel's side.
And again, the loss of Blue coming into play on the outside. On the defending end, maybe more than attacking, so like Coach Petru was concerned about. But now a chance down the right side for Dominican, and it should be played for the first corner of this game for either team, and it is. It will go to the Cubs on the far side.
And we haven't seen a lot of set pieces at all. A couple of free kicks on this end of the pitch, but first corner of the game, as you mentioned, from Mount Carmel. And this is something where you get a quality ball in the box, and you get people in a general area. Let's see what they can create out of this.
Only a couple of Cubs right in front of the mouth of net. Now others creeping forward. Looks like man marking the plan for Dominican, and that one's headed down by Singleton for the team in black. But Mount Carmel able to possess and kick it in, but not very well as it goes over the back line, and another goal kick. Just doesn't look like Mount Carmel's terribly sharp today.
And when you're looking to try to break down a defense that has so large numbers defending at the back, where does it usually start? Individual play, one-on-one. You get a breakdown, you shake a defender, and that really starts to compromise everybody else. If you lose a defender, all of a sudden you get a little bit more of an advantage. So let's see if they go to maybe more individual play down the wing and try to get those one-on-one matchups and get a little bit of a breakdown defensively. and try to take advantage of that.
Put a check mark in the column of the midfield for Dominican so far, as once more they move forward more crisply, force a ball to be played out, and now maybe a chance to move forward once more, cut off the back line, and particularly the center backs for Mount Carmel doing a fine job, but it looks like a corner is given up, and it'll be Dominican's first chance, and these set pieces will be even more important for them if they want to put the ball into the net.
Got to take advantage of every single set piece that you get, every counterattack that you get. The defense has played well. This has been exactly what Coach Silvas has wanted on the other side of the pitch. And now we'll see what happens and what comes of Dominican's first corner.
Looks like Kepper setting up shop for Dominican right between two central defenders in front of the net for Mount Carmel, but this one's played across and played well, and the keeper having to deflect it momentarily. Now at her feet, can Dominican put it in? They can't. Wow, how did they not score there? Unbelievable. Stansberry looked like she had an easy play, but laying on the ground, essentially, the keeper must have gotten a hand up to keep that out of her net after the initial touch that she had to deflect near the crossbar.
And Stansberry looked like she had it for just a split moment, and she was going to finish right in front of the net with an open opportunity, and that was a big, big chance that Dominican just could not convert on the set piece.
A golden chance goes by the boards for Dominican, but they're once more in possession on this end and playing a great ball forward, and the flick on just off, I think, target, and great job by, I believe it was Matthew, we're saying it was actually Katie Cabes, playing it towards goal, and the flick just not there at the end. A shorter player perhaps penalized there on what would have been a better opportunity for a taller striker in that case. Goodness gracious, Dominican has to be feeling so good about themselves in this opening half, and there's a sloppy turnover in the back under no pressure by Mount Carmel. It's clear that Dominican has the edge right now.
And now we're seeing that frustration start to set in with Mount Carmel, with more of the scoring options at hand now, but not able to crack this defense so far, and Dominican now really starting to look the aggressor.
Mount Carmel just playing the ball forward once they do possess it in their third, and not looking for anything as far as a smart counter so far. They need a spark to get going, because Dominican looks like they're going to keep the pressure up and starting to play with more and more confidence that they are the favored team in this game. You'd think it from the looks here, and now a chance for Dominican, 2-on-2 the other way, and a shot towards goal and just into the side netting. The fans thought on our left here on the Dominican side that their team had taken the lead so close, and I believe that was Kepper who took the shot from the left of goal, just missing.
And another huge opportunity. Great pace on the shot, just staying a little bit wide that time from Kepper, but you're starting to see it. Now, these teams have switched roles in the past 10 minutes, and there's no doubt about it. Now, Dominican starting to look, as you mentioned, a lot more confident, getting forward and attack the numbers that they do have forward, and they're getting those quality passes into the box.
Kepper not able to chase that one down, so it'll be a goal kick for Mount Carmel, and that was the first chance on the Kepper shot where you saw the center backs for Mount Carmel out of position. They've been there so far, but because of the quick counter on the deflection, it's Dominican that's played the better balls forward when space has been available, and they've been rewarded for it with more chances, but not a goal, as they've had the two best chances of this match so far.
And that was a nice job by Kepper of getting into an open area where she could have a clean look at goal and just pushing the shot a little bit wide.
The challenge here for Mount Carmel is Dominican's really challenging them on their end of the field to keep possession, and that's the attempt being made right here. And we hate to say it, but number 26 not listed on our roster given to us by Mount Carmel, but she did a nice job momentarily. But once again, here's Dominican with Singleton taking possession, and now it's taken away from her, and maybe a chance the other way for Mount Carmel. Good ball played forward, and they've got it in the final third for the first time in a while. But that one is played a little bit too heavy down the far sideline, and Dominican will eventually play it forward. Thought she was going to let it go out of bounds, but smart job by the left back, and here come Dominican again.
And there was Matthew again, muscling off the ball as Mount Carmel looked to have an opportunity, tried to push some numbers forward and get Dominican backpedaling defensively. But Matthew, strong on the ball, was able to dispossess and get it right back.
Singleton playing it forward towards the middle, headed up in the air by a Cub. And now another loose ball. Seems to find the feet of Dominican more often than not. Kepper playing it to the left side. And now the Dominican trying to play it back, but they want to be careful in this case, even with 2 or 3 defenders always staying on their half to prevent any counters. Mount Carmel with it and trying something down the right side, now playing it towards the middle, but stolen away again by Singleton. And I like Dominican's strategy here. When they had the ball near midfield, they're immediately looking for a through ball and something quick hitting between defenders. That time handled well by Mount Carmel, and a whistle, and it looks like it's going to be a foul against the Cubs.
And this is a team in Dominican that hasn't been able to sustain possession for long periods of time. So you mentioned the through balls, the balls over the top that they're looking for, trying to really challenge this Mount Carmel defense right over the top and with some longer passes.
Young talent, though, and they've got good results under their belts despite the loss of Sakara. A win over St. Joseph, the only team so far this year to defeat St. Scholastic, as again Dominican keeps the pressure up with another throw-in moving forward.
And there again is Kepper on the scene, and it feels like almost a broken record, but Dominican has really played strong, and it's been the midfield. The defense has really not been challenged as much. It's been the midfield that's been able to win balls back and give Dominican some opportunities in the form mostly of Kepper.
Nearing 30 minutes into this first half, Mount Carmel looking for something, and again Dominican up to the task to immediately cut them off as soon as they enter the Dominican half. Mount Carmel just struggling in the midfield so far, trying to create any sort of possession. This time a ball up in the air, up for grabs, but there's always more black jerseys back there than white, including in this case, as Watkins will let it roll to her just inside her area to pick it up for a free kick.
And what did Coach Silvas also tell us about the goalkeeper situation? You mentioned that they split time, but he's looking to see who can have the upper hand, who's playing with more confidence. And so far, she hasn't been challenged as much lately, but we saw a couple of early tests that Watkins was able to pass. Let's see where they go from here, if Coach Silvas maybe sticks with Watkins in the second half, or if they do make that change that Coach Silvas talked about pregame.
Foul against Dominican and gives a set-piece opportunity for the Cubs here. I said free kick a moment ago, but I meant just a kick. An easy play for the keeper. Keeper that may be challenged here, depending on how well this ball is played forward, as numbers pushed ahead for the Cubs. Let's see what they come up with as they play it near the box. And that one going through and misplayed, perhaps for a chance for a cross, but not able to control it. Chased down by the Cubs as they keep it down towards the Dominican end.
Looked like they were trying to take advantage of the one height advantage that they had on the front line, with Maddie Murrett just missing the mark in the pass.
Shaky midfield play again, and Dominican almost with a chance for a break. Ball played forward, and that'll go out for a throw for Dominican. Sports NOLA happy to be bringing you girls high school soccer locally. First NBC Bank Showcase, and thanks to Ashton Ryan and First NBC Bank for their support of all the high school sports that we can cover. We've brought you events, certainly plenty of football games, basketball, baseball coming up. We've done wrestling, soccer now, volleyball, you name it. Looking forward to both boys and girls playoff basketball and soccer as we move forward into 2016. Mount Carmel just seemingly giving it up in the middle of the pitch early and often, and not being able to successfully keep possession like I think they were expecting in this match. But once more, a chance to move forward and a sloppy pass, and Dominican trying to come back the other way. It's been Dominican that's been the counter-attacking team to great success, as they had hoped in this match. Now some room down the left side for the Cubs, and some patience, which they've needed, shown to add to their possession in this situation. But then once more, a lacking pass and a try for a counter, but 2 Cubs waiting back there to prevent any immediate damage.
And another giveaway here in the midfield, and Dominican has it right back with Singleton once again, and just lacking confidence on the passes, and Mount Carmel with several giveaways of late.
That one out for a Cubs throw, but lots of credit has to go to Dominican on the flanks, because they've done a much nicer job of creating width as they've tried to attack, and Mount Carmel struggled there mightily.
you go into it with a game plan and where you believe that you may have the advantages, but it certainly hasn't turned out that way, or at least maybe as expected in the first 15 minutes. And Mount Carmel maybe showing a little bit of impatience, frustration, and a little bit of a lack of confidence now.
Joe Galloway subbed back in for Mount Carmel, and trying to figure out, we haven't seen much discipline in their formation so far on this one to figure out exactly how they're trying to attack. They just haven't been on the same page in the middle third. Now looking to move forward, maybe having some numbers advantage. That a very good ball, and a ball down the middle for a great scoring opportunity, and it should be put into the net, and it is, as Watkins came out for it. And just like that, the first real space down the middle of the pitch, Mount Carmel takes advantage and takes the 1-0 lead.
And that was absolutely beautiful. In the open field, you get Dominican's defense back on their heels. You don't give them a chance to really set up in and around the box, and an excellent pass that found, I believe it was Murat, and able to finish for Mount Carmel and put them up 1-0.
Just like that, one breakdown, and having finishers is a great advantage. I believe it was Matty Murat who was able to avoid the dive of the keeper Watkins, keep possession, and have an easy tap-in when all was said and done. And just like that, 1-0 the score in favor of the Cubs. And maybe they don't deserve it. I'm sure Coach Petru will say that they don't, but they took advantage of the best chance of this match with style.
And now a goal kick for Dominican, but this obviously changes the philosophy. Now Dominican not able to just sit back and defend, obviously still in the first half here, but going to have to, as the match goes on, and this scoreline, going to have to take a couple of more chances as we move forward. But still plenty of time left. Dominican just has to stick with what they're doing. Defensively now, just that one bit of quality play down the middle of the pitch where Dominican wasn't able to fully set themselves up in their defense.
That goal coming at around, we're going to guess, the 33rd minute or so of this first half.
Fair assumption. We started maybe a couple of minutes late, about close to 5 minutes late, so somewhere in the 30s.
And now Dominican tasked to keep their heads about them. They've outplayed the Cubs for large portions of this opening half, and now the Cubs looking to take full advantage of the momentum moving forward once more. And working down the sideline is Galloway, and she is taken down.
It was Matthew on the foul, and Mount Carmel right now is starting to go on the wings here, starting to go out wide and maybe look for some one-on-ones that they could take advantage of. We saw earlier in the possession it was Esther Lagos with it, looking to maybe attack and break down, and she gave up the ball to Galloway, who was fouled, and now a set piece in a pretty good position for a cross from Mount Carmel.
I know Watkins is in a competition for who's going to start in the playoffs in goal for Dominican, but you can't blame her for coming out. She was really stranded there with no help defensively, and just better offensive play with the footwork to avoid her to create the easy goal.
Last one back, and obviously she knew that she had to try to make some kind of play on the ball, maybe get a little bit of a tiny deflection, and she wasn't able to come up with it.
That one deflected right into the waiting arms of Watkins, with nobody for the Cubs facing goal to try to attack it, and Dominican looking to move forward quickly, but it's lost out of play near midfield. 1-0 in favor of Mount Carmel, still undefeated on the year. 10-0-6 so far. And the challenge really facing Dominican is you still want to keep it compact. You're only down a goal. You don't want to panic. More open play, bringing more forward, could cost them dearly, as Singleton's taken down, it looks like, looking to play a ball down the left side.
And it's still early in the match as well. We're still in the first half here, so still some time left. You just have to keep your shape defensively. No reason to panic and throw more numbers forward. You're down a goal, but you have to have confidence that for the most part, you've outplayed Mount Carmel. Just that one bit of quality that they were able to have, where they were able to get kind of a transition opportunity, if you will.
Every free kick in the Mount Carmel half has to be something Dominican looks to take advantage of, and here at least able to keep possession off of it. But a bit flat-footed for Dominican was Caves, who should have been looking to go forward with it. It's played out by the Cubs near sideline.
And there's the lack of numbers that are thrown forward, and just playing it into an area that you maybe expect someone to be, and it wasn't.
Dominican, though, still battling to keep it on this end. Now looking for the finished product if they can come up with it. Playing it back now. And a chance to lob one forward. I think the offside flag has to come, and it does once the header was made. 2 Dominican players past the last defender.
That was Hannah Parody, the sophomore, that was trying to play that one over the top for Babin, but clear offside on both Dominican players. We'll give it right back to Mount Carmel for a free kick in their own end.
You hear more about Bird and St. Scholastica from those in the know as far as Division I favorites, with Mount Carmel right behind them. Coach Petru talked about the teams he thinks can win state.
Start now. Number-wise, I would say 6, 7. Maybe Bird is very strong this year. St. Joe's is very strong. SSA. I think we're in the picture. Mandeville, Found a Blue, Dominican's never out. So then the difference I think this year is that you have, even from there on, the teams that are like 7, 8, 9, 10, they're a lot stronger than years before. So I don't know if anybody can sneak in there, but there's some really good teams. Like I said, Bird it looks very good, and St. Joe's looks very good, which in previous years that would be like quarterfinals, but now we're talking about finals maybe. So
sounds like the depth around the state of quality has grown. That creates more upset potential perhaps in the first and quarterfinal rounds than we've seen in the past. But the powers are clearly some of the same names you hear. But Bird is described as the fastest team in the state. So they'll be a tough team to deal with coming from the Shreveport area. It looks like we have reached the half, and we have. And the only goal going to Mount Carmel, and a very well-played goal for the team that really didn't have much of the possession and greater opportunities in attack. Dominican had that throughout most of the half, but give the Cubs credit. When their chance came, they took it.
Their one piece of possession that they were really able to string together, and it really came with limited numbers back for Dominican. Dominican not able to fully set up in their defense, which has been so solid and so disciplined all game long. Just that one bit where you get somebody on their heels and you look to attack, and Mount Carmel did that, and they have the goal right now that's made the difference in this match.
Jude Young, Emmanuel Peppa scrambling with the greatest team possible to put this on the air on short notice, trying to get into these facilities to do so. Another half of football coming your way. 1-0 the lead for Mount Carmel over Dominican, part of the first NBC Prep Showcase all school year long on SportsNola.com. We'll be right back. Number 2 at Pan American in City Park, New Orleans. Girls soccer in the first NBC Prep Showcase on sportsnola.com. Dominican played so well in the first half, but Mount Carmel cashing in, and we clarified the goal for the Cubs to take the 1-0 lead they hold right now, scored by Kyler Fisk. And for the unbeaten Cubs, a chance now to see if they can exert control here in the second half. And for Dominican, I don't think you can change your game plan, at least early in the half, as far as losing the shape in the back and the way they've been able to win balls and be firm defensively across two lines.
And certainly now, especially early in the half, like you mentioned, still with a lot of time left, you just got to continue to have faith in what you're doing defensively, and you just got to hope for one of those chances. They've been able to get some attack on the width as the second half is now underway, and they've just got to stick to that, at least for the early portion of the second half, until we get to the final 10 minutes where you have to throw numbers forward and throw some more caution to the wind.
We started in twilight. Now darkness has taken over, and the lights in the stadium are in full effect. And in this game, you are looking at it from the Mount Carmel side. You're hoping that you can bring more darkness down and see if you can play a better half of soccer and keep more of the possession. They really haven't been able to build up too much from the back, and I know Coach Petru would have liked to have seen better so far.
Just a lot of giveaways, especially in the midfield. But credit to Dominican's young midfield as well, and young defense. We talked about it at the halftime break, how well Singleton played, just a freshman but with some size, and Matthew as well for Dominican to really force some mistakes. And, of course, Mount Carmel with a couple of unforced errors as well.
Once again, Singleton a force there to break up the attack for Mount Carmel. Dominican tries to counter the other way. The Cubs with more numbers, but hanging in there is Stansberry and forces a play out on the near sideline by the Cubs.
And there again, attacking down the width with some space. You get somebody, you get a couple forward into the box and look for that cross. Cross couldn't come, but now you've got to throw in deep in Mount Carmel's end.
It'll be Madigan Spires with the throw in. So see how far she can hump it. It goes over an intended target, and the Cubs with a couple of deflections and now able to play it forward.
I wanted to get to something that you talked about at the end of the first half with the level of competition, but you really get a sense of how maybe the powers rank now in the middle and the end of the season. We talked about it at halftime. Some of these teams, they have girls that play other sports, whether it be cross country or whether it be volleyball, and they get some of those girls back, and they're different teams by the middle end of the season, and obviously come playoff time.
It's the same thing we see on particularly the boys' side with the football players that come and change the complexion of these basketball teams, like Riverside and their ability to gel now. They win the boys' bracket of the All-State Sugar Bowl Prep Classic. We had the final on Sports NOLA, and Timmy Bird's club, a very different team when you add a slew of talented multi-sport athletes who are starting to gel just as they get into the meat of their schedule.
And we saw that with one of these teams on the pitch several years ago when they won their state championship in Dominican. They had a couple of girls that were lacking as Mount Carmel now on the attack, but that's sniffed down in the back line.
Galloway looked like she had some space to work with, but again, Mount Carmel not able to keep possession on the move in the final third. The one time they did, they put it in the net by the goal from Fisk, this time moving it forward, though, and overweighted, and it'll go out of play.
But just to kind of close that point, Dominican had a few girls that were missing because of cross-country, got them back, and really got into a rhythm towards the end of the season, and they were able to make that run into the state championship.
Last year, of course, Mount Carmel reaching the final. Dominican fell at the hands of State Scholastica in the semis here, 4-0, and really the Doves were a clear, deserving state champion and a regular in the state finals, but Mount Carmel looks like they'll be a contender to go that far too, as they're starting to show a little bit more here to start the half, playing with that momentum of the goal that gave them the lead. But a throw in here for Dominican.
That's out of play again, and Dominican gets a throw a little bit deeper. And let's see how they continue to attack these throw-ins. They've started to get some longer throws here, maybe trying to spring something against Mount Carmel, throwing them into the middle of the pitch, and there it is again.
They've been better with quick touches on the move and haven't cashed in much with deeper throw-ins. And that nearly a handball there by one of the central defenders for Mount Carmel before it reached the keeper. And that's Sam Bourgeois in net for Mount Carmel, and the change was made at halftime as expected for Dominican as they go and finally put a senior on the pitch.
And Katie Sedora, who Coach Silvas mentioned, Watkins played the first half, showed well with a couple of chances earlier in the first half that were thrown her way, but just really she was forced into action one-on-one as Mount Carmel was able to find a gap, really penetrating through Dominican, right in the middle of the Dominican defense.
The goal not her fault. Fisk just better on the ball to tap it in as the end result. 1-0, Mount Carmel with the lead, as you can see. And I hope you have a nice, clear picture on sportsnola.com to enjoy the action. Two very well-coached programs and contenders most years. If you're just joining us, Mount Carmel third in the state power rankings and undefeated on the season. 6 draws, though, in their 16 matches. Dominican coming into this one 8-6-5 on the year. Both of these teams in District 6 in Division 1.
And just a little bit of a heavy pass as they were looking for Aguilera now for Mount Carmel. Aguilera was trying to play a through ball, and the last time that Mount Carmel had possession down in the other end of the pitch.
Overweighted by Hemel, and I'm sure that'll be a point of emphasis after this match regardless of the outcome for Pavlos Petru. His midfield just a little bit off as far as the sharpness you expect, especially in a rivalry match like this one. But we've seen Mount Carmel have more of the ball, and that ball forward cut off nicely and cut out of play. Looked like number 12, Olivia Finger, a junior, able to be in the right space, and that's been something that for the most part Dominican has done a really nice job of in the back. They've been conservative with bringing up their back four, and for the most part they've been up to the task when asked, save for the one goal.
And they've been strong on the ball, and they've really been persistent and not allowing a lot of space for Mount Carmel to really try to break them down. They've been very aggressive in pressing up and taking the ball away in instances with Singleton especially, and you mentioned Finger on that last possession, but Mount Carmel sniffing around the box now.
Sam Messonnier able to get the important touch in the box there on a ball that bounded through across from right to left to prevent a goal-scoring opportunity, which would have been a nice one, as Mount Carmel had a pair of potential attackers headed in that direction with nobody else left for Dominican, which now moves forward with the ball going the other way and trying to play it up the right side, and done well, and now to the middle of the pitch, but just ahead of, and it looks like Babin, we'll check, it is Babin, who was making a run right down the center of the pitch, and she was impeded just a little bit, but legally to slow her down just enough, I think, to prevent a chance for her to get on the other end of that ball.
Yeah, both going for the ball. Just a little bit of the angle that was taken maybe kind of looked a little bit worse than it was, but just a little bit of incidental contact as they were both going for the ball, but Babin was just cut off and impeded a bit.
No way you're going to hear a whistle on that one, as Dominican now back defending as a throw-in from Mount Carmel on the far side and trying to work it down the left, but once again cut off, and a strong play on the ball defensively by Dominican.
And it took Stansberry a little bit of a while when that attack started brewing. She had the pass right on her foot, but she was just forced out a little bit, and it took her a little bit longer to make the turn. If she makes it immediately, maybe Dominican makes a little bit more out of that chance.
Mount Carmel with 3 defenders across, not coming any further than about 5 yards past midfield, playing a bit more conservatively with the 1-goal lead as the Cubs do possess it on this end, and will play it down the left flank near the corner flag, and it's deflected out of play. Last touch by Mount Carmel for a goal kick. Parents sitting in the dark here as the stadium lights have taken over, and before that they're in the shade, so it's that dedication to the kids here as most sit on this side of the pitch opposite the benches. It's either that or have the sun in your face in the first half with our 5 o'clock kickoff this afternoon, so choose your poison to support your daughters out here. And a dedicated soccer parents, as we know, about as dedicated as it gets between the club schedule, which can be so grueling, and then varsity and high school.
And with all the travel, especially with these early season tournaments, like you mentioned, dedicated parents and families that make the trip to watch their daughters play with jackets on and coffee in hand.
We want to give a shout out here to our colleague and friend, Coach Alan DeRitter, his De La Salle varsity squad, the boys playing today, so he wasn't able to be a part of the broadcast, but he has Monday Night Football, his weekly radio show at 7 o'clock on 990 AM WGSO that streams at WGSO.com and free on the TuneIn app. Again, every Monday at 7 o'clock, talking almost exclusively Louisiana high school soccer, boys and girls. Plenty of great interviews with coaches and more. And Alan does a great job on that and has a loyal following. And for those who don't know about it, well, now you do if you care about high school soccer in this state. Dominican momentarily looking dangerous there, but it was played out very nicely by Fisk, our goal scorer from earlier.
That was a play to the middle for Isabel Torres that she was just muscled off of the ball there, and now, but a play in the middle for Torres from Stansberry. Stansberry getting very involved as she has been throughout the game on the wings in the attack.
Bourgeois controlling the entirety of the box out there, coming out again bravely and confidently to know when you have to come grab the ball, as she's had a little more work to do than perhaps was expected in this one so far, and she's been up to the task.
She certainly has, and maybe just that final ball lacking from Dominican, but Bourgeois has certainly seen her fair share of tests so far throughout the first half, throughout portions of the first half, especially towards the middle part. And here early in the second half, as Dominican coming out with a bit of a renewed vigor.
And that save of the match so far, to be sure, by Bourgeois. Maybe a double save when it was all said and done off of the only corner of the match for Dominican so far. A big difference in a 1-0 game. Mount Carmel with it, and much better and more patient on the balls we expected to see after the break than we saw in the first 40 minutes as they move forward now. And it's Aguilera taking it towards the center of the pitch and playing it to her left. I believe that's Fisk coming forward inside, healed it, but too far. Intended for a teammate that was looking to cut across the middle.
But you like the build up there. You like the passes in a shorter area. Get some more confidence, some easier passes that you can complete, and really kind of get this Dominican defense moving laterally to maybe where you could find a seam or a gap that you can attack. Good build up there, just didn't quite have the finish.
Babin with a great ball forward left side, and now Stansberry crossing and just out of the reach of a charging teammate right down the center, and it'll go out of play far sideline.
Look to be Torres again.
Yeah, throw in for Mount Carmel, and that once more, when they've had space, Dominican has been much more crisp on the ball, and that almost a brilliant connection right in front of goal.
Well, we've seen it throughout the game. They have wings that can really run, that have some good pace to them, and that's been a bit of a challenge at times for Mount Carmel's backs defensively. And we highlighted about Sydney Blue not in action, and they've really attacked pretty exclusively down that right side.
They started early in the match, the first 5 minutes exclusively going left, although they've had success on both sides. In the absence of Blue also missing from the offensive attack, looking to come the other way when you're Mount Carmel, and there's some of that lacking width we've seen from them so far throughout large portions of this match.
A goal kick now set up for Mount Carmel.
Now just hoof it forward, and Dominican looking to challenge, and that ever-present Singleton for Dominican with a head on it as her team tries to attack right side, but dug out by Mount Carmel, looking to move forward quickly in response. And again, much better on the ball, the midfield for the Cubs in half number 2. That one deflected forward, though, but Bourgeois all by herself, able to control it. And pick it up and take her time here, and that's what you can do when you have the lead.
And we talked about those ricochets, especially on the turf. You got to be careful. That was obviously a deflection that had a lot of pace on it, and it was just able to zing right back to Bourgeois. But sometimes when you get this turf, you get that funny little backspin that causes some trickery for the keepers. So we'll see if that comes into play once again.
And those goal kicks that are essentially just long balls for each squad played towards the center of the pitch can sometimes create a deflection that turns into opportunity one way or the other. It adds a little bit of that variety of the unknown to the game when you're not playing it off the ground on throws from the back.
And it really becomes a matter of who's stronger on the ball at that point. When you're really looking at those goal kicks, it's into an area where everybody's collapsed and almost waiting on the ball for a couple of moments.
And a foul there, and probably a wise one, as Mount Carmel had it going towards net and some space on the left side. A pass could have been coming, and it looks like it was Aguilera who was taken down. She's made her presence felt here early in the second half and giving Mount Carmel much more of a thrust in the middle moving forward.
She's been a starter now for this little build-up, and we've seen the quality build-up in the second half from Mount Carmel, and she's been the one that's kind of been the key to the engine, if you will.
About 25 yards out from the left side is where the Cubs will have this free kick chance. Already leading 1-0 on the goal by Kyler Fisk. And we'll see how they approach this one, as we've seen man marking in these free kick situations so far by Dominican. I don't think you'll see any change from that, as they'll line up a wall of 3, the mandatory 10 yards away. And the kick forward is high and over the crossbar. Pretty good effort, but she couldn't keep it down.
Just a little bit too much air under it, and we were out obviously before the match. A little bit of wind, but not too much of a gust of wind. Just got her foot a little bit too far underneath it, and was just always going over the bar.
She was trying to loft it there and get it over not only the little mini wall in front of her, but to drop it over that first wave lined up of her teammates just outside of the box, and a little bit too much on it. It's clearly targeted towards the right post. As now Mount Carmel again will keep it on this end with the throw-in. And the swarm of Dominican there to create challenges once more for a throw-in of their own.
And when Dominican has been able to be set defensively, they've flushed Mount Carmel out to the wings. They've flushed them out to where they haven't been able to see a lot of passes. They've been able to keep their backs away from the goal to where they haven't been able to see where the numbers are and where the support is.
Looks like a handball called against Dominican there near midfield, so Mount Carmel will keep it on this end and continue to apply more pressure and have much more of possession than they did in the opening 40 minutes as they move forward now down the left side. Now it looks like Dominican backing off a little bit more in these spots, and you wonder if fatigue also plays in, as they've been awfully aggressive trying to stunt the attack of Mount Carmel the other way and create opportunities. And that can wear on you over the course of a match. If you're giving a little bit of that extra effort early, it can affect you even with substitutions being able to be used in and out of the game late. We see some coming now, a couple coming off for Dominican right here. Maybe
it's like
3.
Stansberry is coming off.
Yes, so you see the fatigue becoming more of a factor for them.
And also Babin is coming off for Dominican as well.
So 3 fresh, at least for the moment, faces on the pitch for Dominican, one of them being Maddie Evans, a junior.
Richardson is back in, Abby Richardson.
Who's been a pest offensively moving forward at times in the half. I'm not sure who the third is. We'll try to get her number for you in
looks
a second.
to be Spires back in.
And
Madigan Spires.
Madigan Spires, who's only a freshman.
So really, they're changing their front line, and they're changing their look up front, obviously to get fresh legs, but a whole different set up forward now. And we'll see how Dominican looks to attack when they get back on the ball. But as you said, backing off now, conceding a little bit more of that possession.
It's exciting to see when you look at the variety of state title contenders. If you value the top 10 in the power rankings right now in the state, when you have a team like Bird from the Shreveport area, Acadiana, and Como coming from the greater Acadiana area, as this one's played towards the keeper and right back on the ground, poised, shown there as it goes out for a throw for Dominican. Mandeville and Fontainebleau join St. Scholastica as Powers on the North Shore and Santa Ma just outside of Baton Rouge and Ascension Parish. And East Ascension ranked 11th is one that I'm told to keep an eye on as well, as we see another substitution for Dominican we'll get to in a moment. And then there's St. Joseph's. That was, we mentioned, handed St. Scholastica their only defeat of the season out of Baton Rouge. So different areas of the state showing their soccer prowess amongst the large schools, as we have a foul called, and Mount Carmel is whistled for it, so Dominican has possession, which is great to see. Just to see the richness and the ability of different areas of the state to be able to feed high schools quality talent enough to be top contending teams. That's just showing you the growth of soccer, which we know in the country is becoming the most rapidly played sports amongst youths all over the place, and that's also true, especially amongst the girls in Louisiana. And
it's become, to an effect, almost a trickle-down effect when really professional soccer gets more notice here. It really starts, I believe, at the top with the national team, and that generates some interest as well, and that gets some more interest. And you see down the line, obviously, and it trickles down to youth, and of course those girls grow up and go into high school and collegiately, and a select few play professionally after that.
Over 30,000 paying customers for the end of the U.S. Women's Victory Tour after their World Cup in the Superdome in mid-December. Great to see, and you can be sure many of these girls and families saw off Abby Wambach and some others that are leaving the scene internationally for the top soccer program in the world. And to have that kind of inspiration to look up to and to motivate you affects all of these girls on different levels as they play year-round in club and high school soccer.
And you mentioned about the level of competition that it breeds, especially once you get to the postseason, and it really intensifies and ramps up once you get especially deeper into the postseason, as a shot that didn't have a lot of pace on it was easily handled by Sedora there.
Yeah, that was Elena Tague who played it and kept it low. Sometimes you want to get a little bit of that skip action coming off of the artificial stuff that they're playing on this evening, but that time the ball never came off the ground for an easy save. Didn't create that odd spin or bounce that can come as a result, as that one goes over the end line for a goal kick. Much more evenly played second half here. Dominican has to feel really good about how they've done in the run of play. Mount Carmel still holding on to the 1-goal lead, and they've come on and played better on the ball, particularly in the midfield.
Right, they have to feel a lot better of how they've played, how they've handled possession with the ball, the amount of passes they've been able to complete in the second half as opposed to the first half. And it's really now on the ball, Aguilera, who's made quite a bit of a difference in the second half for the Cubs.
Aguilera cutting through two defenders, taking on another, and it's deflected away from her. She certainly has the courage, but she's also been patient in those situations, which is something that was lacking early on for the Cubs. Now Dominican perhaps with a chance, but 4 Cubs back has slowed up wisely for a redirect, but nobody there as it's played forward out of bounds near sideline.
Richardson had it on her foot, just had a little bit of trouble controlling it at the beginning, and that allowed the Cubs to really get back and set defensively.
Aguilera oftentimes the target here, even off of throws, and that time she plays a nice ball forward, but just a little too far, intended for Maddie Muret. Now here come the Cubs left side, moving forward, backing up Dominican a bit more here, but now the ball is played away momentarily, but the Cubs keeping it on this end.
Ball cut out nicely by Kepper and then played a little bit out by Matthew, but Mount Carmel on it once again. But there again, we've mentioned about Kepper's name on the other end of the pitch in the first half, really creating some chances, and there being strong defensively, and Matthew able to back up the play.
Another team that you could talk about, there's a few programs on the girls' side as far as in competition to say maybe that they're the best in the state. Vanderbilt Catholic has been good in both girls and boys soccer for years. They're strong this year in a lower division, and Ben Franklin is highly regarded as perhaps a team that could play with any in the state on any level. they'll be one to watch that has to be favored to win another state championship this year.
It's Mount Carmel with another throw-in deep in Dominican's end, and the Cubs have really been able to keep on the ball and keep on possession, but a giveaway there.
Right, and we've seen maybe the touches lacking at times, but better and better play overall for them as this match has progressed, and a little bit more of a comfort zone with the lead at this point, as that one's played forward and deflected. And again, Dominican's defense up to the task. They've done a nice job. Their center backs in particular have been on the spot when needed, most times when Dominican has been under pressure. But that not a cleanly played ball, but now up for grabs and played back. Situation for Mount Carmel to regroup, but again, that's played sloppily forward. Both teams playing giveaway, and now Aguilera with it, who's always been a steadying influence in this match on the ball. Taken from her as they move forward to the far left.
Ball is acting a little bit more like a pinball the past minute or so, with both teams, as you mentioned, not having the best of touches on their passes.
I think it can have an effect on both squads, and it becomes contagious to a certain point. But the end result in most of these cases has been Mount Carmel starting to look more formidable moving forward, like they do right here. But again, marked off the ball and played away in the center of a very solid Dominican defense.
And once again, they're going to target Aguilera on the throw-in as she looks to attack down the wing and looking for support in the box here.
Keeping control on the sideline, but scuffed on the left-footed opportunity, and that really should have been put on target there by Murat, who had great position but came up empty on the swing.
And a nice bit of individual play on the wing off of the throw-in. Aguilera once again getting heavily involved in the attack, set up her teammate Murat wonderfully with a good chance in the box. That could have made it 2-0, but just scuffed.
Hannah Paradis and Olivia Finger, the center backs that have done a nice job for Dominican, as that one's fired onto the side netting high near the crossbar, left side, out of bounds, out of play, I should say, for a goal kick.
Sounded like had a little ring up on the outside of the post as well.
Little of that metallic magic, if you will. Not of the goal post variety. Of course, that's another matter this time of year on the professional level. We see Mount Carmel players looking to stay loose over there, and that might be some of the action coming up later, as I believe there's supposed to be a junior varsity match this evening, a switch around of the schedule to accommodate us with this broadcast today, as Dominican with a foray the other way, far side, picked out and then lost as it's kept alive, and eventually it looks like the foul is called about 10 yards from the corner.
And here again gives Dominican, as it looks like a card has been shown
First
now.
of the match, yes, and it'll go against one of the Cubs. If we can have her turn around for us, we can figure out who that is.
But here on a chance down the flank, and Dominican with a shot, if they could get just one bit of quality here on a set piece, as Mount Carmel throwing all the numbers forward, obviously, to defend here.
And the transgressor is subbed off as a right-footed ball is played towards the net, headed up in the air by Kepper. Still alive, deflected twice by the Cubs forward. Dominican keeps possession for a redirect, played into a couple of Cubs deflected, and now one directed sloppily towards goal and easily played and controlled. Did it go over the back line? Actually, no, we have a foul, it looks like, called. About 30 yards from the net. Not sure. Nope, the final decision is a deflection and a corner. So another chance for Dominican on this end, keeping it alive. Looks like an in-swinger coming this time around. Off the right foot. Played into the far post and punched away nicely by Bourgeois. Smart decision not to try to catch it, playing it forward, and now a counter for the Cubs.
Controlled by Singleton off of the punch, and she looked to play it right back in, but deflected, and now Mount Carmel with it. They give it right back. But a good play that time by the keeper, Bourgeois, to keep that out. Singleton tried to really press that one back as the numbers were still forward.
And Paradis from her center back spot, breaking up the attack nicely once more. The official having to get a little bit more involved here, talking to players as it gets a bit more physical as the match has progressed. Still up for grabs, a result for Dominican still within reach.
Well, you see in the sense of urgency, obviously continuing to ramp up for Dominican, obviously behind the scoreboard, 1-0, looking for that final ball, looking for that final chance, and Mount Carmel becoming a lot more physical as well.
Good ball to create a corner as the end result once more. Dominican playing forward nicely again down the right-hand side.
And here comes another set piece for Dominican, something they've looked to really try to force and take advantage of. But Mount Carmel is able to deal with it. You look at the height advantage, the height here in the box, and especially defensively for Mount Carmel, maybe a little bit of an edge at most parts.
Herbert seeing more playing time as you have a senior not in net involved in creating this corner opportunity, and it'll be another one off the right foot, swinging out from goal. And after a couple of hops, played forward and out of danger momentarily by the Cubs. And perhaps a chance for a counter, and it will be. And they have plenty of numbers coming the other way against just two defenders. Moving forward.
It's 4-on-2 with 3 trying to get back.
You have to question the final decision there to go with the shot, Emmanuel. I think playing wide left might have been better. You know, give it up and get it back. But that not the decision made, and maybe bailed out Dominican for more danger.
There were 2 Cubs on the left side running right with the ball, actually a little bit ahead of the ball. And Mount Carmel had a 4-on-2. A third Dominican defender tried to get back, but it was really a glorified 4-on-2 that Mount Carmel did not take advantage of.
Bourgeois sure-footed, making the right decision, playing the ball just outside her box. But Dominican still on the attack, at least trying to work the right side once more. And that's a deflection that will go out, and the decision will be another Dominican corner. And that'll be the third in about the past 2 minutes.
And the 4th overall in the game. And we've seen Dominican have a couple of threatening balls on set pieces here throughout this match, a couple in the first half. So Mount Carmel certainly not out of the woods.
Looks like the decision going the other way for a goal kick. It looked like a point down towards the corner flag, but instead Bourgeois will kick it forward. Singleton got her head on it at first, but Mount Carmel controls and decides just to hoof it forward into the other half. And Dominican patient before playing it out. Not really under pressure there. You would have liked to have seen her control and look to move forward, but not looking to take any chances at this point. And I think sometimes the bounce of the ball on this turf becomes much more of a factor. You try to play it safe. And here comes that pressure again in the middle third from Dominican, trying to create a quick opportunity the other way. And that time it was Kepper once more being a factor and pressuring a couple of Cubs who handled it well in the end.
And Mount Carmel, you're seeing it now, trying to get some passes into some shorter areas, trying to really run this Dominican defense and play a little bit of keep away, but maybe also look for that chance for a breakthrough to get an insurance goal.
Somehow, some way, one Dominican player against 2, keeping it alive. That was Stansberry again. Looked like she might be able to poke that pass and create something for herself, but just not enough on the foot the second time around after beating the initial defender.
It looks like we're going to have a sub for Dominican as Megan Rotolo is coming off, and we'll catch who is coming on now for Dominican as she is now checking in.
And a sub coming from Mount Carmel as well as we get towards the latter stages of this second half.
And it looks to be Richardson coming back on.
She probably had about a 10-minute rest there, so she'll try to provide a little bit more here in attack moving forward, but it's Mount Carmel who has it and keeping control with a few nice touches. And once again, Aguilera, but this time poked away from her, and Dominican able to stem the tide. But another sloppy pass on their end, and the Cubs will try to keep it going. But once again, ball challenges. Dominican has been there one-on-one and had the advantage in those matchups in the open field. Tague will be coming out for a breather for Mount Carmel at this point. Of course, in girls soccer, you have liberal substitutions in and out of the game, unlike for those who may be checking this out tonight or are used to you have a certain number of substitutions, and when you're out, you're out. That's not the case here. And it's the same in women's soccer on the college level. You have the same substitution pattern where you can bring players in and out of the game. And
just to finish off the substitution, it was Maddie Murad who got a bit of a breather, who's back on.
Throw in for Mount Carmel. And handling it is Deming. And that left-footed shot just goes wide of the post, trying to hook it around a defender. And it's the mysterious, I believe, number 26, whose number is not listed here. So we feel bad about that, but don't blame us. We only have what's available from the two schools involved. Looks like we have an update. It's going to be Hope Hoffman is actually who that is. Listed as number 2 on our roster from Coach Petru.
It's Mount Carmel now. That was a corner kick that was decided. So the Cubs with a set piece here.
And swinging in and handled at the ankles with no danger around her by Sadora, who hasn't been too busy with her hands on the ball in her half of play, playing that one forward. And Mount Carmel losing it out of play for a throw.
Quick throw in from Dominican as they tried to really catch Mount Carmel napping, but they had 4 Cubs back and were ready for it.
Been a lot of right-sided attacking for them here in half number 2. Really been down that side of the field more often than not in this game. Going the other way in the first half, they were attacking the right side of the Mount Carmel defense, and now a throw in, staying alive for a little while, and now poked forward into the hands of Bourgeois off the foot of Richardson.
And one of the center backs for the Cubs made darn well sure that Marcel Kepper wasn't going to get through for any kind of a touch on the goal.
Interesting that we've seen a lot of these kicks from keepers played forward and allowed to bounce, misjudged in the air. If we have a foul called. And possession for Dominican here, about
between 25, 30 yards out.
Yeah, so enough of a area to be able to play one in the air if you have a good set piece in mind. Dominican still looking for that elusive tying goal.
Looks to be about 28 yards away, and Kepper is going to take this one, looking for one of her teammates, bringing forward in the box.
With the right foot, she goes right at goal, and just a couple of feet, if that,
or
over
not.
The crossbar.
Or not, she'll just take it herself, and that didn't miss by a whole lot.
She didn't put much of a spin on it. She was just going for accuracy, and I tell you what, Bourgeois judged it well. Might have been able to jump up enough to get a finger on that if it were a bit lower, but knew that she was bailed out by the air under that particular free kick, but a nice one, just not low enough, and that's the second time we've seen that happen from around that range in this match.
Kepper has certainly made a couple of things happen in the attack for Dominican, as we've highlighted throughout the match, and there a good chance that she had, that she felt comfortable with taking herself and just got a little bit too much air underneath the shot.
Free kick opportunities have been there in this half for Dominican, enough that they would have hoped to have broken through, but it hasn't gone that way as the clean sheet continues for the Cubs as Dominican plays that one out, and Mount Carmel once again on the attack.
A couple of bodies kind of bumped into each other that time, as it was number 23, Kara Hemel, who was playing that one, and Matthew trying to take the ball off of her for Dominican.
This time down the left side. Can Dominican keep it going? No, the pass off target by Richardson right to the middle of the back line of Mount Carmel, which will now try to turn about as fair play down the left flank as they attack from left to right. Singleton maybe is tired a bit. She's been less of a factor on the ball in the midfield, but was involved in the activity there as a Cub goes down. Dominican momentarily looked like they were being able to move forward. Instead, still in possession of Mount Carmel, and now a foul. Looked like an elbow thrown to the midsection by a Cub.
Trying to catch who it was, going down to her knees now as she's trying to get back up, but staying down for Dominican. We're trying to catch a number here, but you mentioned about Singleton, just hasn't been able to stay as strong on the ball as she was in parts of the first half.
I think that might have been Hoffman responsible for the foul there, just trying to bump the Dominican player who's still on her knees, maybe trying to catch her breath because that looked like it was taken right.
I believe it may be Spires. There's a 2 in front of the jersey. I believe it was 21, but not sure currently, as she is, as our vantage point, we're seeing her right down her side and obviously not getting a read of the back of the jersey with the number on it.
Pretty clean play, though, overall in this match. Just working her way to her feet. We think it's Spires, as she'll be subbed off here. Time running
it's
out
actually
for Dominican.
It's 22, so Sadie Herbert.
So Herbert, the senior, will have a little time to shake it off over on the sideline. Just part of the game. Anybody that doesn't think that soccer is a contact sport, think again.
Yeah, it doesn't happen obviously as often as other sports, but there are some collisions, and there are just some collisions where both are going for the ball, and unfortunately there are some violent collisions. Fortunately, there wasn't anything really violent or obviously anything egregious there, as you mentioned.
Apparently, the initial whistle foul went against Herbert, so because of the injury, it was played forward by Mount Carmel to the Dominican keeper, but now Mount Carmel in possession again.
They were really trying to spring it. Looked like Aguilera forward on the wing, and that was a nice cutout of the pass that time by Dominican to really prevent that from happening. And that was actually Katie Cabes, who cut that ball out.
I tell you what, more than likely at this point, I mean, it's hard to see Dominican coming up with 2 goals in the win in this match, which means that the unbeaten streak this season for Mount Carmel is going to continue at 17 matches and counting, with the wins obviously within reach at this point with the 1-goal lead. And that is awfully hard to do with the level of competition and these compact tournaments, particularly last month, playing multiple teams within a short span of time. But Coach Petcher's done a really nice job with his club showing up and being able to make enough plays to avoid defeat. But now Singleton coming forward, 3-on-3 the numbers, but overweighted to the left side and out of play. Singleton, and I think that might be a little bit of tired legs, had plenty of time on the ball and really needed to be accurate with the feed there for her teammate Stansberry.
Dominican had something there. Singleton had the pass to the wing with Stansberry, and she had a couple of teammates as well running in support in the box, and she had some options if the pass was there.
But a sloppy throw-in goes right back out of play off of Richardson. And if you're Dominican, you really need to challenge every one of these to try to keep the ball on this end and see if you can create a quick turnover. And a handball comes on the throw-in, and there's a turnover you hope for in a position where you can play it as a free kick towards net for a set piece.
An unforced error, really, on the throw-in. There was really not a lot of pressure around. I believe it was Lagos who was the transgressor on the handball, and now to take this free kick, it's going to be Spires.
And Spires moved the ball a little further towards the middle of the pitch to create a better angle here, and not told against it. And a quick play forward, Singleton not able to get there, a pair of Cubs defending. Bourgeois wraps it up and goes down to secure it on her stomach. Now she sees perhaps an opportunity to counter, and some space down the left side, played forward, but Dominican, in the end, the bounding ball not coming down enough for good control, looking to play it forward, but to no one in particular this time around. A little back and forth play we go here, and if you're Mount Carmel, kind of want to stabilize here and slow it up, and perhaps that's what's happening here. A touch by Hemel, and now played towards the sideline. Taking her time on the ball is Esther Lagos.
You want to take advantage at this point, if you're Mount Carmel, of your overall edge in possession as we get late on in the second half.
Once again looking for a quick through ball. Stansberry that time. Now buying a little bit of time. Bourgeois forced to pick it up. And eventually by Richardson. And that will do it. The final whistle is blown, and Mount Carmel wins number 11 on the season, stays unbeaten on the year, defeating their rival Dominican by a score of 1-0. No surprise, goals at a premium, well-played match, and Dominican can feel really good about how their young team held up against the Cubs here today as well, despite not coming up with the result.
Credit to Coach Silvas and his team for really keeping their shape defensively. There was one that really Mount Carmel was able to be able to take advantage. The Dominican wasn't able to fully set defensively, and Kyler Fisk, the lone goal scorer for Mount Carmel. But overall, a very solidly played defensive match for Dominican, and they had their moments on the attack and in a couple of set pieces as well. But the Cubs overcoming what was maybe not their most crisp match of the season, and Coach Petra's bunch now, it'll take them any way you can get them. Win number 11, and the unbeaten streak for the Cubs continues.
And on the Fisk goal around the 35th minute, a great job in the center of the pitch, forcing Watkins, the starting keeper for Dominican, out of her net, coming forward towards the edge of the box, and able to maneuver Watkins, who dove at the ball. Really the only thing she could do as the last girl left between ball and net, but just better play on the feet by Fisk to control it and then tap it in, the end result. Dominican had their chances. It took a great double save at one point by Cubs keeper Sam Bourgeois in the first half off of a corner. I don't know how she saved the second one. Got a hand up and deflected it away after the initial save off the corner itself, but that was enough at that point. Not many other great chances for Dominican from the run of play the rest of the game.
They really looked to attack down the flanks, and Coach Silvas mentioned about the difference between Watkins and Sadora is minuscule, and we saw that tonight. Even though Sadora didn't have as many opportunities to deal with in the second half as Watkins did in the first half, still both doing their jobs effectively, and they're going to continue, obviously, with that two-goalie look, and with each team, with each player alternating starts. So Sadora is obviously going to start the next match for Dominican, but a well-played game for Dominican, despite not having the scoring punch. Obviously, we highlighted with Alex Sequeira hurt, and Mount Carmel on the other side, just able to get that one little bit of quality, that one possession that put Dominican on their back heels, and that wound up being the only difference in an otherwise pretty evenly.
Year. I mentioned Carmel, still the only undefeated Division I girls squad, 11-0-6 on the season, and these two teams in the top 10 in the power rankings, both certainly to be factors in the postseason, and we'll have playoff soccer for you at some point moving forward as part of the first NBC Prep Showcase here on Sports Know as we close it out from Pan American Stadium. I'm Jude Young. Many thanks to Emmanuel Pepis. With the final, Mount Carmel 1, Dominican 0. It's been a pleasure on SportsNOLA.com. Have a great evening.